Greetings and welcome to Dialogue of Civilisations. Today we embark on a discussion that goes beyond politics and diplomacy. We explore something far more profound: identity. What does it mean to be Israeli in today's world? How has this identity evolved over time and been shaped by history, conflict, resilience and globalization? Israel is, of course, a nation built on survival. From its establishment in 1948, following the horrors of the Holocaust, to its continuous struggle for security in a volatile region, the country has faced existential challenges from day one. But the challenges are not just external. Israeli society is a mosaic of cultures, ethnicities, and religious beliefs. It's home to Jews of European, Middle Eastern, and African descent, as well as a significant Arab population, Druze, Christians, and other minority groups. This diversity has made Israel both a vibrant and very complex nation. Internally, it grapples with questions of religious versus secular identity, political divisions, and societal cohesion. Today, Israel is facing new challenges. The events of October 7th, 2023 marked one of the darkest days in its history, with attacks that shook the nation to its core. The war in Gaza has reignited global debates over Israel's actions, with mounting international pressure and diplomatic rifts. Yet amidst these struggles and challenges, Israel thrives. There's most certainly something very unique about this nation. So what defines the Israeli identity today? Is it resilience, innovation, faith, or deep connection to the land? Or is it all of these things together? To help us answer these very interesting questions, we are honored to have with us His Excellency George Dagis, Israel's ambassador to Azerbaijan. Your Excellency, welcome to Dialogue of Civilisations.
Thank you so much for having me, Orkhan, on the show.
It's a great honor, of course. As I said in my introduction, Israel is a fascinating country. Those people who love Israel, think very highly of Israel, would say that it's the most advanced nation in the Middle East, it's a bright hope for the future. Those who do not particularly like Israel would say some other things. They would even say that Israel externally imposed and its survival is a matter of speculation. This latter argument probably testifies to the fact that there is indeed a question of survival as long as Israel is concerned. What is the place of survival instinct in terms of Israeli identity?
Israeli identity and Israeli history are a fascinating topic, and very few people in the world can remain indifferent to it. It's like dushbara, you either love it or you hate it. But I think that the Israeli story is also very unique in that sense because of a few factors. Survival has never been taken for granted. And when you grow up in Israel, you grow up knowing that your home is not inevitable. You wake up every day knowing that while other countries have their history evolving within their borders, you have to fight every day to protect and to justify the borders internationally. And that puts us in a very different place from the rest of the world. And I think we understand that when it comes to survival, failure is not an option. And therefore we cannot afford despair. Because if you look at the map, I always ask people if you can tell me which country is bigger, Israel or Nigeria, when I used to work in Nigeria, or Israel and Norway, or Israel and Azerbaijan. Most people think, without looking at the map, that Israel is bigger because it takes so much volume of what we talk about and hear about and so on. But in fact, Israel is a tiny nation. And because we're so small, the cost of failure is immense. It's basically annihilation. And that, I think, is something that has escorted the Jewish people's history from long before even the inception of the State of Israel. The history in the Arab world, the Muslim world, as well as in Europe, especially in the 19th and 20th century, has shown that despair would lead to annihilation. And therefore, we cannot afford despair. And the third thing that I would say is that Israel is unique in the sense that we are a nation not just of survivors, but we are a nation of builders. Meaning, yes, we have to survive and we fight for survival. But in addition to surviving, the way we ensure the survival for the long term is by being builders. We have created a country that is leading the world in water technology. While just a few decades ago, we were an arid country that was thinking of importing water from elsewhere. We now can cure diseases that were never cured before, thanks to Israeli innovations in the field of medicine. We can now grow more food where it never grew before, including in the desert. And Israeli agricultural products are now being used all over the world, irrigation systems and so on. So by being a nation of builders, we show our resilience, that even in the middle of our fight for our existence, we're able to rise, rebuild, and keep moving. And I think this is the ethos of Israel. We fight, we win, we rebuild, and we keep moving. And when we face failure, we see every setback as an opportunity to become better.
Yes, indeed. And also Israel is widely referred to officially as a Jewish state. We would like to understand the place of Jewishness in terms of the social construct, Israeli identity, and the state of Israel. We talked about Israel being home to people from different backgrounds, not just people of Jewish backgrounds. So what is the place of Jewishness in terms of understanding Israeli statehood and Israeli identity?
You touch upon a very important point, because Israel is a deeply Jewish state, while it is widely diverse at the same time. It is deeply Jewish, not in the religious sense of being Jewish, but in the sense that it is a homeland for the Jewish people. And it's not just, it's a homeland in many ways. It historically has been the homeland of the Jews since the biblical times of Kings David and Solomon and Joshua and Moses. And it also has become a home today after the history of 2,000 years of exile. You know, in every Jewish wedding for 2,000 years, a Jew would stand on his wedding day and break a glass. Everyone knows the scene of breaking a glass in a Jewish wedding. Now, most people think that breaking a glass is a sign of happiness. They say, oh, you break the evil spirit or the bad luck and you create good luck. No. The reason why the glass is broken on every Jewish wedding for over 2,000 years, long before Israel existed as a modern state, is to remember, even in your happiest day, on your wedding day, to remember the destruction of Jerusalem. That just like Jerusalem was destroyed, so you are breaking the glass. And you promise, you vow on your wedding day, that's the most important part of the wedding, that if you will forget your Jerusalem, you will forget your right hand and your tongue will stick to your mouth. So Jerusalem and Israel has always occupied a huge part in the Jewish spirit. So that is one part of it. Secondly, Israel has become not just a place of choice for Jews to live in, but a place of no choice. I'll give you an example of Shlomo Mansour, who died on the October 7 attack in his kibbutz. He was 3 years old when he watched the Farhud take place in Iraq. The Farhud is a pogrom that the Iraqis held against the Jews who lived in Baghdad. People don't know this, but until then, Baghdad was a third of its population was Jewish. And in the Farhud, there was a pogrom meant against the Jews of the city, which led basically to the emptying of the Arab world slowly, within a decade, emptying of 1 million Jews from the Arab world. People know about the story of the Holocaust and in Europe, but people don't know that there are a lot of Jews who lived in the Arab world who were also forced to exile and to live with nothing except what they could carry. Most of these Jews were not Zionists. Most of them were many of them were even anti-Zionists. But still they came to Israel, because when the flames came, when people persecuted them, that was the only option available to them. So you opened by saying that a lot of people are questioning Israel's right to exist and about the idea of survival and Zionism. So I challenge those people to say, if not for Israel, where would Shlomo Mansour and his family, where would they go? When they're kicked out of Baghdad, where would they go? When they're kicked out of Morocco or Egypt, where would they go? I'm not even talking about the ones who are from Europe and the US and other places. So Israel is a special place in the heart of every Jew, first because of the historical and religious connection, But secondly, because basically the Jews are people of refugees who were kicked out of the Western world as well as the Arab world, and found the only answer to their plight in Israel. At the same time, Israel is very diverse and it has big population of minorities within it. In fact, I'm the Israeli ambassador here in Azerbaijan, but I'm not Jewish. I'm an Arab, and I'm a Christian, and I come from a Palestinian family. There are 20% of the Arab population, over 20% of the Arab population who are not Jewish. 80% of those are Muslims, 10% are Christians, and 10% are Druze. And in Israel, Arabic is an official language. The streets are signed with Arabic signs in addition to Hebrew. We are able to live our life, our faith. We can thrive as a religious community, as an ethnic community, as a cultural community, and we enjoy equal rights. The fact that we have a Supreme Court judge who's an Arab Muslim, the fact that Israel has an ambassador like me who's an Arab Christian, the fact that you have Druze serving in high positions in the military, in the Israeli government, and in the high-tech sector, even in high-tech sector where you have the highest ranking Israeli in the entire world, in the world of innovation and high-tech. It's Johnny Srouji. He is the vice president of Apple, and he is an Arab Christian from Israel. So that diversity exists within Israel with the opportunity to be equal and to live as an Israeli just like anyone else. So that tension between being deeply Jewish and widely diverse exists, but it's a tension that, despite the contradiction that one might think, it actually works very well together.
So there are others in Israel, and it does constitute about 20-25% of the overall population, who are not Jewish by virtue of background, by virtue of ethnicity or faith, and they're still citizens of the Jewish state, and that makes them part of that large family.
Yes, I want to emphasize, I'm not talking about Palestinians in the West Bank and so on. We are talking about Israel proper, not the Palestinians of West Bank and Gaza.
The state of Israel, of course.
Yeah.
Indeed. And of course, what happened, the tragic event of the October the 7th, changed quite a number of things about our perception of the state of affairs in the Middle East, state of affairs enveloping the current situation of Israel. It has had a huge impact on Israeli self-perception and our perception of Israel as well. What are the long-term implications of what happened on the 7th of October? We will see more resilience, more sort of doubt, and or we will see something quite different, more reinforcing type of Israeli approach to the world at large?
I think a few things happened in Israel in the aftermath of October 7. First, we realized that when our enemies talk about our annihilation, they actually mean it by word. It's not just rhetorics, it's not just internal politics, but it's actually something they wish. And it shattered a lot of illusions in Israel. Now in Israel they call it the conceptia, the conception. And if before that we have seen, despite Hamas governing Gaza, we have seen tens of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza coming to work in Israel every day with Israeli license and approval, getting Israeli salaries. We have seen Israel providing everything necessary for Gaza to thrive, including allowing other countries to bring in cash into Gaza in order to make sure that Gaza thrives. Because we believed that if people in Gaza will be happy, then they will also be more peaceful. And we have learned that for every dollar that they received, they kept another dollar to build a terror infrastructure against us. The cement that we brought into Gaza was used to build tunnels, not homes and schools. The metals that were brought were not brought in to build hospitals, but they were brought to build rockets and terror weapons. So we kind of woke up from that illusion, and we understood that when our enemies talk about destroying Israel, whether it is Hamas, but more than Hamas, it's the backers of Hamas, especially Iran, that they actually mean it, and we have to prepare. Secondly, on October 7, we realized more than ever that every morning that we wake up, we must assume that no one is coming to help. We have to be self-reliant, and we need to have the moral clarity and the self-reliance needed to be able to survive and to prosper and to live. And that self-reliance means that we need to be able to take care of our own. And despite the internal upheavals and battles, which still continue today, left and right, secular and religious and so forth, we have to come together, because nobody is going to come and save Israel from the outside, nor do we expect anyone to do that. Third, I think what October 7 showed us is we have a fantastic, courageous, brave new generation rising in Israel, which faced the adversity. And while we were down in the lowest point on the day of October 7, we were able to rise back up and to flip the situation into a tremendous victory for Israel. Not just geostrategically, the fact that we have basically destroyed Hezbollah, we have destroyed Hamas, and we have significantly weakened Iran, and who knows what's going to happen in the near future. But it's also the acts of personal and individual bravery that took place on October 7, on October 8, and in the days past. Stories of people who sacrificed their lives to save others, people who went to fight alone. An Israeli guy who immigrated from, his parents immigrated from Ethiopia, a Jew who came from Ethiopia. He ran 15 kilometers with his rifle so he can fight terrorists on the day. And he killed many of them on October 7. Others who used their personal cars to go and rescue the people from the Nova Festival when they were attacked. So all of these acts of bravery shows us that we have a tremendous future, and the moment that we faced adversity, we united. We came together, and we have shown ourselves and the world that Israelis are more resilient and more powerful than ever. When you think about even people who were in the demonstrations against Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government, using the same headquarters that they used to organize and coordinate the demonstrations, using those headquarters to coordinate food supplies and help for the people of the kibbutzim and the people of the villages around Gaza, you see the unity, you see the beauty of the nation of Israel.
Indeed, and as you mentioned earlier, quite a lot has happened in this wider Middle Eastern region over the past year or so. We know what's happening in Syria, we know what's happening in Lebanon. 27th of November agreement changed dynamics in this region, and of course what's happening after 19th of January as well are to be taken into account. But since we are focusing on more philosophical, civilizational part of the story, I would like to carry on in the self-same spirit. Of course, Abraham Accords are important, are very integral to Israel's future. And after President Donald Trump's Gaza takeover suggestion, which has received huge criticism in different quarters of the world, in Egypt, in Cairo, the plan was proposed, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza. And the questions have been asked that, bearing in mind that some of those countries that participated in that meeting happened to be involved in the Abraham Accords, Israel will sort of recalibrate in terms of their approach. What is the role played by Abraham Accords in terms of Israel's future self-image of itself in this region?
I think the Abrahamic Accords, before even touching upon the issue of Gaza, they are a symbol of what can be in the region, what is becoming in the region. We talked a lot about Israeli resilience and Israeli spirit and Israeli identity. But there's one secret sauce that we did not talk about. That is hope. It is in fact the national anthem of Israel. Hatikva is called the hope. Hatikva means hope in Hebrew. Because what keeps us going when we are down, what keeps us going when we are beaten, what keeps us going when we are in a bad spot is the hope that tomorrow will be better, that we will make tomorrow better. And I think the Abrahamic Accords are an example of that hope coming to life, to have Arab countries who have been in conflict with Israel for so many years come together in a peaceful way and to enlarge the peace and normalization circle between Israel and its neighbors. And I know that Hamas leaders and Iranian leaders said that one of the goals of October 7th attack was to stop the momentum of the Abrahamic Accords, specifically to stop Saudi Arabia from joining the Abrahamic Accords. So I think that it's obvious now that their plans have failed, and we're going to see that circle grow bigger and bigger as the years would go forward. Now, as for Gaza, I think that we can rely tremendously on the Abrahamic countries, on the Gulf countries and Egypt and others, to stand with the right thing to do when it comes to the future of Gaza. We have made our position very clear that for the war to end and for Gaza to rebuild, we need the hostages out, we need Hamas to give up government, and for Hamas to dismantle. Now, if we do this peacefully, if they are able to convince Hamas to disarm and to finish Hamas in Gaza Strip peacefully, to give up its arms and remove it from power and give us back our hostages, that's wonderful. We would take this deal any day. But if that doesn't happen, none of the reconstruction is going to take place as long as Hamas is there. And it's not just us saying that, it's the same Abrahamic countries that are saying it, and for good reason. They have rebuilt Gaza more than once. What happened then? Another war, and again everything is destroyed. So they're asking a very correct question. Why waste our money on something that will be built today and destroyed in another war tomorrow? So in order for reconstruction to take place, Hamas must be ousted from Gaza, and it has to be destroyed as an organization and as a government. If not peacefully, then by force. And the war might continue if Hamas does not disarm. So our partners in the Abrahamic countries understand this very well, because at the end of the day, it's their money that's going to go to Gaza. The $53 billion that you mentioned are going from the pockets of the citizens and the taxpayers of those countries. And they're not going to throw their money to waste, and I fully understand that.
Yeah. Talking about Abrahamic Accords, I recently read an article published by Jerusalem Post suggesting that Azerbaijan should also join this Abrahamic Accords. First of all, I understand as a concept this relates to Arab countries by means of the original idea, which lies at the heart of it. And secondly, many analysts say that Azerbaijan has gone too far. It's, we have reached our own level. We are in a league of our own. What is your reflection on this subject? And particularly, I would like you to reflect on Azerbaijan-Israeli relations.
I think the relations between Azerbaijan and Israel preceded the Abrahamic Accords. So if anything, it should be called the Azerbaijani Accords, because you set the way for others to follow. So we're very proud of those kind of relations. But I do foresee the Abrahamic Accords as a group, as a working group, as a platform upon which cooperations could work, expanding, including Azerbaijan and others. Let's call it Abrahamic Accords 2.0. And it doesn't have necessarily to be Arab countries. It can extend to other Muslim countries who are not Arab in Africa, in the Far East. We've been hearing about various countries who might join, some of them Arab, some of them are not Arab. And I think Azerbaijan should be a part of the Abrahamic Accords, not because it will normalize with Israel, because obviously our relations are far beyond normalization. We have a strategic partnership between our countries and we can expand upon that, but because it has to be, I think Azerbaijan deserves to be part of that club of like-minded countries, the Gulf countries, Jordan, Egypt, Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, soon inshallah, Saudi Arabia and others. And that club should work because we have a like-minded mindset when it comes to fighting the extremist forces in the region. I think that could be a good platform to cooperate on. Israeli-Azerbaijani relations have moved far beyond normalization. And in fact, today we have a very strong relationship. In fact, as we speak, Minister Jabarov, Minister of Economy of Azerbaijan, he is currently in Israel, and he's going to sign today the agreement for Sokar to buy 10% of the Tamar gas field. That's going to be one of the first places that Sokar is actually drilling for gas outside Israel for the exploration in Zone I, as well as joining the Tamar gas field. So that is a huge partnership which shows us where we are today. In fact, Minister Jabarov is the first minister from a Muslim country to visit Israel since October 7th. So that tells you something about the strength of the relation between our countries that have not wavered and have not dwindled for a single day since October 7th, from high-level visits, economic cooperation, political cooperation, and also, let's say, a shared geopolitical vision of the region and what should be.
Indeed, I remember interviewing you after our Azerbaijani ambassador was posted to Israel. I think that interview took place in early 2023. And then my question to you was, why now? What made this particular development possible? And perhaps my last question to you will be, what is the significance of current juncture? What is so specific about current juncture in terms of Israeli-Azerbaijani relations? Is it, everybody is saying that something important is happening. We are in the presence of big changes, but we don't really understand what is the essence of that change. What is the essence of that change in the context of Azerbaijan-Israeli bilateral relations?
The whole world is changing before our eyes. We see what's happening with the new administration in the US, the Russia-Ukraine war. We see it in the Far East, we see it in Africa, and we see it also in the South Caucasus. And I want to use this opportunity also to congratulate Azerbaijan and Armenia for concluding the text for the peace agreement, which I think is a very big step, inshallah, towards a conclusion of a peace agreement between the two countries. But in times of change, you can do one of two things. You can just sit on the side and wait and hope that things will turn out to be good for you. Or you can seize the opportunity and be bold enough to go forward and to shape the future, not just as an observer, but as an active participant in building the future that we want to see. And I think Israel and Azerbaijan are both countries who decided to shape the future. We have already in the aftermath of the immense tragedy of October 7th, we have basically already redrawn the map of the Middle East. Lebanon is a different country, no longer under the grips of Hezbollah. Iran is in a much more vulnerable position. It lost its key proxies in Gaza, in Syria, in Lebanon. It doesn't have that kind of strength anymore. We have seen the Americans and the Brits and the Westerns trying to stop the Houthis in Yemen, who are obstructing the trade routes in the Red Sea and in the Straits. And I think also here, Azerbaijan and Israel understand that we need to work together to shape the future, to build a more peaceful future in which our countries play a major role in connecting. And in times of change, small countries like Israel and Azerbaijan also can be in a key position between the big powers. For example, Israel has strategic partnership with Azerbaijan, but we are the closest ally of the United States. So maybe we can play a role there to create a better harmony between the other two countries. Same goes for Azerbaijan, Israel and Turkey, two key allies of Azerbaijan. How can Azerbaijan play a constructive role in making sure that there's no conflict arising between us and Turkey in that sense, or to avoid any serious clashes. We see Syria has changed its face. Azerbaijan, Israel, and others play a role in what's going to happen there. So I think we are living in a time of huge change, and that kind of change requires boldness, it requires the courage, and requires the vision. I think the leadership of Israel and the leadership of Azerbaijan, you can say whatever you want about them, but they do not lack vision, they do not lack courage, and they do not lack the guts to do what it takes and to take risks in the way and to face a lot of pressure. I know Azerbaijan faced a lot of pressure when it kept its friendship with Israel since October 7 from various countries, some of them enemies, some of them close friends of Azerbaijan, and it withstood that pressure knowing what the vision is and how we get there and how Israel plays an important role in that. And the same goes for Israel. So I'm very optimistic about the future of our countries. I think this friendship of ours is going to play a vital role in shaping the greater region of the South Caucasus and the Middle East, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you, Ambassador. So grateful to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As we close this conversation, one thing is absolutely clear. Israel's identity is as dynamic as the challenges this nation is facing. From its historical struggles to its technological triumphs, from regional tensions to global diplomacy, this nation continues to evolve, adapting to a world that is both supportive and critical. Its resilience, innovation, and deep-rooted history make it a unique player on the global stage. But questions remain, of course, about its future internally and in the broader geopolitical landscape. Azerbaijan and Israel share a relationship built on mutual respect, security, and cooperation, proving that this partnership can thrive. A special thank to our guest, His Excellency George Deek, Israel's ambassador to Azerbaijan, for his insights. Stay informed, stay engaged. We will see you next time on Dialogue of Civilisations.